Hey onesies, Josh Williams here, and thanks for checking out the One Man Podcast. There's now over 200 episodes and dozens of bonus interviews, all of which are available at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, and many more. And you know what? If you don't have any of those apps, no big deal, because you can listen anytime at onemanpodcast.com. So be sure to subscribe because it's always free and there's a new episode out every Wednesday. And while you're at it, leave a review. It's a great way to help the podcast and it doesn't cost you a thing. Follow One Man Podcast on all the major socials and you'll get bonus content and pictures, fun stuff for yourself. And finally, if you have something that you want read on the show, send it to contact@onemanpodcast.com, because if you send it, I'll read it on an upcoming episode. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you enjoy.
What's up, everybody? This is DJ Demers.
I'm K. Trevor Wilson.
Hey, it's Krista Allen.
Hi, this is Rick Mercier.
What's up, guys? This is Paul Verzi, and you are listening to the One Man Podcast. Yeah!
My name is Josh Williams, and welcome to the One Man Podcast, episode number 210. How about that, huh? For Wednesday, May 19th, 2021. How's it going, onesies? How are you guys doing this week? Oh, man, do I have some stuff to talk about. Not a ton in all fairness. I will just be telling you guys a little bit about what's been going on with me. I did some physical activity, basically just getting out there. I'm continuing the fast. I will tell you exactly how that is going. I'll give you guys my weigh in. I got a couple other things, some health, some mental health, all sorts of different things that I've been working on. I'll tell you guys about that. I've obviously spent more time watching some movies and things. I will tell you about those. Some experiences that I have. I have a gig. I may or may not have a gig. I'll tell you guys what I'm working on next, and just some regular how's about things with me. I guess if that's what you call them, I don't know. I'll let you know too, the top 5, of course, later on. A little reminder today on the podcast, it'll be top 5 things I felt strong about that a conversation or situation ultimately changed my mind on, of course. So I will let you guys know about those, and that'll be as the top 5 have been lately. It'll be a little wordy, so why don't I just get right into telling you guys. I'm going to give you an update on how my fasting is going. I started that about 2 weeks ago, a little over. I'm actually on day 16 today. And I was doing fasting from 1 p.m. until 7 p.m. So I was doing just like a 6-hour chunk. There was a few times that I had to up it to like 12. And even when I did, it would be like, 12:15, 12:30, 12:45. So I never ate right at noon, but there was times where basically I'd started an hour earlier, and there was a few times where I was like, I had to go over the 7 o'clock to 8. So a lot of people were telling me I should be doing 12 to 8 anyways. But, the funny thing is too, is that several times, I didn't even eat till like 2 o'clock. Like I'd be like hungry. In fact, I even found myself sleeping. You know what I mean? Like I was trying to get up earlier so that I, get a good start in my day and just be up different hours. I didn't want to be up all night. I was kind of like, it would be nice to get up when the sun comes up and kind of make the most of the day and feel that energy. And you know what I mean? Just getting myself into a better mind state versus like that depressive awake overnight kind of thing. Did I say overweight overnight? I think I said overnight. Anyways, point I'm getting at is, stuck to it. And lots of times I would get to, like I said, I was hungry in the morning. So I'd be up at like 6 o'clock and I'm like, okay, only 7 hours till I can eat. And I would, I'd be plowing through and kind of hungry, but I'm like, I can put it off. And then I would just find myself like my energy levels would get low. And if I didn't have anything pressing, I'd be like, you know what? I'll just grab like an hour long nap or an hour and a half, hopefully recharge. And then find myself like waking up at 12. And I'm like, oh, I had barely any time to go. So, basically I've just continued on. And then a few times I don't know if I mentioned this to you guys before, where like, I also had like afternoon little bouts of lack of energy. And, I would eat my meal, be finished like 2:30, 3 o'clock sometimes. I'm like, I'll just have a little nap and pass right the hell out and wake up at 7 o'clock and go, well, it's 7 o'clock, so can't eat anymore. You know what I mean? Shut myself down. So there was, just for what it's worth, even though I had that window, I'm just letting you guys know that I've been pretty goddamn good. I think one time I was having a beer and I wasn't working on it particularly hard. And then I just, I reached over one point and finished it. And I was like, oh fuck, it's 9:30. So I'm going to forgive myself for that. It wasn't intentional. I didn't look at the time and go, fuck it, I want it. There was lots of times where I'm like, hungry later on and like, I could just go for a snack and, what if I just, and I didn't. So I'm sticking to the rules. I am not, blatantly breaking my own rules. I am sticking my best to the 6-hour thing. I have gone well under, where I've only eaten for like a 3-4 hour period and what have you. So working really hard on maintaining my goals for that. I weighed in today at 306.6 pounds right before I started the podcast. So that's good news. I'm basically down 10 pounds from where I started 16 days ago. So how about that? That's a good start. And I've been eating not the greatest food. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to pretend something, it's not like I'm eating kale salads or anything. I was still eating whatever I wanted. I was just eating lesser quantities because I would get full faster. And, I've been chugging these like bubblies, right? No calorie waters that I can get away with whatever time of day. But they do make me hiccup and burp. So I'm like, I haven't had anything in a while. My throat's a little dry. Chug, chug, chug. Now I'm going to be hiccuping and burping. I apologize. But yeah, fasting day 16. I went for a walk the other day. So I'm watching the time right now, guys. I've actually got a training for a gig this weekend. Again, a gig that I may or may not have. I'm an understudy, so I'm getting paid for standby. So I may or may not be doing something this weekend. That'll be something that I'll tell you about next week, I guess. But I went for one of the things to do is I'm being more active. So I had a day last week where I was like, I'm going to walk to my mom's place. She's about a 30-minute walk. It was hot. It was nice out. I'm just like, get that exercise, get those steps in recorded on my watch. And I think the whole thing ended up being like 2 kilometers or 2.5 kilometers overall, which is great. It took me 30 minutes there. I just stayed, had a little shoot the shit with her. I think she offered me like a low fat or whatever, low calorie, like fudge bar. You know what I mean? Like a Fudgio or whatever. What do you call this? Fudgesicles. Except it was just like, it's like chocolate sorbet or whatever. Anyways, the dogs were all over me, so they pretty much got it. So that was like what I would have had. And then I walked home again, another 30, 40 minutes back. So it was good. I was just out there getting my heart rate up, feeling good, getting the exercise. I did that. I did some more stuff, but I'm actually just going to hiatus because I need to hit pause to get on this call here. But you guys won't even feel it. I just want to get this thing underway. I've been kind of banging out stuff all day and not really getting to the podcast. So I want to make sure that I have this for you guys on Wednesday, recording it on Tuesday as always. So I'm going to hit pause. I will be back to tell you guys tons of stuff. You won't even feel it. All right. And I'm back just like that. Easy peasy. You barely missed me. One of the other things I did too is I actually went for a walk with my mom. Like my mom's always wanting to walk and do things like that. So, okay. All right. We got the phones going off here. Hey, we're taking calls. What we got going on here? 1 second. Okay. All right. Take another stab. Where's my goddamn pen? Okay. So, I've been active more, as I told you guys. I went for a walk. The other day, I was also like, my mom's like, hey, you want to come? She's always asking if I want to go for a walk with her and the dogs. And in all fairness, like it takes me a lot of motivation to get outside and get walking. And when I do, I want to get my heart rate up. You know what I mean? When I'm walking with my elderly mother and 2 dogs, it's kind of like I'm just kind of wandering around aimlessly. I don't know. I like spending time with her, but the walking part, I mean, I guess, I don't know if her heart rate's getting up. But it's just a lot of like kind of standing around waiting. And that bothers me because I'm like, fuck, I'm out. I'm finally out and I've got myself out of the house. It's like, it would be like going to the gym and then just kind of like, waiting around for the machines or whatever. You're like, fuck, I just want to get it going. Anyways, I'm sure you guys understand what I'm saying. But Saturday morning, I went with a walk with my mom through the experimental farm here in Ottawa that's close by, which was nice. Did about an hour long walk with her. She was happy. Dogs were happy. It was early in the morning, so I was getting things in early. You know what I mean? Which is very difficult. I don't know if you guys can hear that. I'm going to just turn down the old notification sounds on the computer here. Not off, just down. And then I got myself to Costco. Okay. So speaking of like, I haven't been eating great. I told you guys about the fasting. I've just been eating less, so there's been the odd time where, when I'm done fasting, I'm like, I'll go get a burger. I'll get a poutine. And I will tell you guys about that later. There's a poutine place here in Ottawa. Oh my God, it's so good. But I went to Costco and I bought a ton of like produce. So I bought like, spinach to make eggs, like spinach my eggs in the morning. I got avocados, I got asparagus, I got bananas, I got corn. Like I got a bunch of different things to just, eat more real food because this book I'm reading a book about fasting and it's just basically, even saying that like, it's not even so much about like which diet or whatever. It's just, it's better for your system in general to eat real food. And something it said was pretty straightforward. It's just like real food doesn't have nutritional information on it. You know what I mean? Like you're not picking up an avocado with the nutritional information on it. You're not getting this processed foods that require that information. You know what I mean? So, meat doesn't have the nutritional information on it. It's, it's a slice of meat. This is an apple. It's a fucking avocado. What do you want? Real food is just generally speaking better for you, right? So there you go. So I went to Costco, braved that. It was a little annoying too because, Josh, you're just bitching on your podcast. I'm not bitching. I'm just telling you what happened. I went to Costco and I ran into a bunch of people I haven't seen in a while, like the staff members and whatnot. They all know me pretty well there. I haven't been in a few weeks. Like I'm really kind of just, eating and using what I've got here at the house already, of which, I had an abundance. So used that up. And went to Costco, got my stuff, and I just noticed how like every single person that I talked to was like within one or two questions, like, so did you get your vaccine yet? And I guess that's like the new how's the weather, you know what I mean? And I don't know. I really don't like small talk now. You know what I mean? Like I know I can talk at length about nothing, but I don't know. There's a part of me that's just like small talk and over again, like the same recap 5 times in the store when I keep bumping into people that I know. It's just I don't know. It was nice to see them. It was nice to see everyone doing well. It was just kind of like, I'm so sick of answering, did I get the vaccine? No, did you get the vaccine? No. Which one did you get? Oh, and why did you go with that one instead of, you know what I mean? Like, I'm glad you're vaccinated. I'm glad you're going to be safe theoretically. Good for you. Be safe. Mazel tov, whatever you want to say. Good for you guys. Yeah. So basically this week, stuck with the fast, got out for a few walks, went out and got some better food to be, to be intaking. Already had some of the corn this week, which was delicious. Did some, some steak skewers. I've had phenomenal food this week. I've also had, some great Canadian poutineery. All right. And that stuff was fantastic. I broke my fast with that. I had, I don't know if I told you guys about it last week or whatever. I don't know exactly when it was, but like one of the days I was like, I gotta have, somebody recommended me the Sweet Montreal, which is basically a poutine with fucking Montreal smoked meat, pickles, and then like a sweet mustard on top. Fuck, it's good. I also had a day where it was like, just over the course of the week, I've tried these different varieties of this poutine. You guys go check it out. I've already, rather than saying, hey, hit me up and I'll put it in the Instagram, it's already there. During that meeting, I was like, I have shit to do. And while they were just reading policies and procedures at us, no, I wasn't paying attention. And it was like, don't drink on the job. Make sure we're not using it. I'm like, and post on Instagram. So you can take a look at the 2 dudes that hooked me up this week. They were all like, hey, man, I've seen you a few times. You're really liking this stuff. I'm like, yeah, I'm dedicating my first heart attack to you guys because it's going to kill me. But I've been loving these poutines. Instagram, One Man Podcast. Jump on there and take a look at the pictures of the poutine that I've tried this week. I've tried 4 different ones and they were all pretty spectacular. One of them was less spectacular than the others, but fuck, they were all good. They were all spectacular. Take a peek. You'll see the great poutineery. There's a few of them in Ottawa. So if you're in the Ottawa area, they got a bunch of them there. And I appreciate the gang there. I had one called the Wolf, one called the Sweet Montreal, one called the Quebecer, and one called Lebanese. So it was great. I'm going to avoid that place. I had fun, but back to reality, back to goals. And I don't know if I mentioned this already. Yeah, 306, guys, 10 pens down in 2 weeks. I'm happy. I was plateauing for a little while there where I was pounding poutine back. So, I was not gaining. I just wasn't losing. Now I'm back to losing again. Happy man. I also booked a doctor's appointment. So some of the things that I had that were kind of troubling me and always in the back of my mind, I've got an appointment with my doctor, so we're going to get those figured out. I'm looking forward to that. That's just another thing this week I can be happy about, and I'll tell you more when I know more. And I also started therapy again. How about that? My first talk with the old doctor there, the old brain fixer upper. With people that I know and care about, all kind of like, interested in bettering themselves, some of them reaching out to therapists themselves, whatever. I'm like, you know what? Time I went back. time I went back and whatnot. So I actually don't have a session this week. I postponed it 1 week just because that gave me a better weekly time slot. So something was freeing up with one of his clients, and I was like, yeah, I would rather that than the one that was offered. So I'll start that up again and let you guys know how it was. We did our 45-minute chat and just sort of, what am I looking for? What am I, why now and not, last month or next month? And it was cool. It was cool. It's good to see the doc again. Good to see the old head doctor there, the old brain massager. So I'm really excited about that, guys. I really am, because I still have a fuckload of problems that I want to work on. So excited about that. And speaking of shit that I want to work on, so I was telling you guys I might have I wrote it down here in my notes, and I might have a 5-day gig, and now I'm like the understudy for this thing where it's basically going to be just giving away free swag outside of a liquor store. But as it stands, I'm getting paid to be a standby, and I hope that everyone just shows up for the shifts, because money is tight during COVID, and all the pups on the call seem to really want to do it. So I get paid for that training to sit there and post on Instagram, and then I get paid to be on call, and knock on wood that they will not need me for said on call. So it'd be nice to just, make $100 to sit on a call. That would be phenomenal. I do want to go back to work, of course, but it's one of those things where, like, there was 5 days of it, and they were like, hey, would you be available for any of these days? And I was like, I'll take all 5 of them, because you train me and I get in the groove of doing a job. Like, I want to do it a few days. I want to make $500 for the weekend. I don't really want to have to learn how to do something, do it for one day and make like 80 or 90. You know what I mean? I'm sure you guys can understand what I'm saying. Why learn to do something and it's just a 1 day thing? You know what I mean? But hey, you take what you can get. I've done 1 day shit that's paid me like $200-300. I'll do that. But $20 an hour for something I'm going to do 1 day. I'm like, I'd rather, whatever. You know what? Maybe agree, maybe you don't. It's okay. I'm okay with that. I want to give a big shout out. So again, taking better care of myself. I'm kind of like motoring through this because I have somewhere, I got to go get some stuff this evening, and I'm going to run out of time if I do it this way. We're looking at 5 p.m. So I just want to make sure I get a chance to get deep into the top 5. It's been kind of an uneventful week in terms of just content to talk to you guys about. So like, it was good to go for a walk. It was good to hang out with my mom. My dad gave me a bathroom reader. Brett came into town, dropped off a bathroom reader. If you guys remember back then, it's very rare to find one that I don't have, but he brought me one in. I'm very, very happy for that. Got to just sort of have a coffee on my mom's back porch, chatting with my dad and my mom this morning. That was nice. There's really not it's not a whole shitload going on. It's really back to like, I'm reading, right? I'm spending some time reading this book about fasting and just making sure that I'm not going to hurt myself with what I'm doing. I'm making sure to take multivitamins every day. I'm drinking lots of water, everybody. So please, nobody be fearful of me. Actually, the more I do it, the less hungry I feel during the day, which is great. What else? The tennis elbow. This is a big one. This is a big one right here. Tennis elbow. I am still trying to fix it, right? I'm doing these little stretches and things that I found online, but I have a wonderful human being in my life whom I've never met. I've met through the magic of this podcast. I had mentioned that my friend Brent out in Calgary was kind enough to actually take time out of his day to write up sort of like a little sort of exercise regime and what, some physio techniques and things like that to actually expedite the healing process of this tennis elbow. And I can't even tell, over the moon for someone to take the time to do that. So grateful. Well, I'm coming down the stairs yesterday, and there's a package in the house with my name on it. And lo and behold, it's from Brent. And I was like, what is this? Open it up, guys. There's like a flex stick, like a physio flex stick for like, muscle strengthening for the arms and whatnot. And 3 like ice packs, because I was struggling with ice packs. Just, filling cups in the fridge, and freezing them like little old, paper cups that I had from old Nespresso activations, right? Fill them with water, freeze them, and then kind of like rub them, the surface of it around on the little ligament muscle there. And it was a pain in the ass. It would melt. It was dripping everywhere. Well, Brent sends me 3 of these things, like 3 different ones, obviously, so that I can interchange them, right? Because I got to do 20 minutes on, 20 minutes off, 20 minutes on, 20 minutes off. And of course, they kind of warm up. I don't want to say quickly. 20 minutes is plenty of time for what they've got, but you couldn't use the same one because it's kind of got to go back in and freeze again. Guy sends me 3 of them. What an amazing human being. I really can't say enough. I really can't say enough. The fact that somebody that I know from the podcast listened, cared enough to say, here's how you expedite the thing, and then to take the time, and not to mention the resources. These things are not light. So he shipped it, halfway across the country for me. I really can't express my gratitude. I really can't. It's amazing to me. It truly is. And I know that for some of us, that's just a basic kindness and it's in us, but there really isn't enough of that in the world. And yeah, I mean, I'm not choked up, but I was like, there was a huge smile on my face. It was so kind. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. I'm so grateful, so much so that I am declaring the first ever onesie of the month. And some of you might not like the term onesie, but Brent out in Calgary, owner of the Racket Network or Racket Network. I'm not sure if there's a "the" in front of it, but Brent is very first onesie of the month. This month in May, I have dealt with my tennis elbow bullshit and now. So not only do I get the workout, the physio regime, the excellent advice on how to treat it, but literally the tools that I need to expedite my healing process. You know what I mean? So that's it, guys. I'm posting it up on the socials and I'm declaring it here. May 2021 onesie, first ever inaugural onesie of the month is Brent J out in Calgary from the Racket Network. So grateful. So grateful, guys. And if you are in the area, that's the kind of person that you're supporting. So if you want to go to their storefront in Calgary or online Racket Network, not a paid endorsement, just I can't tell you the gratitude. So yeah, I mean, that's like, if that's the kind of guy that's working at that place. You know what I mean? Just taking care of people. Brent, thank you so much. Truly cannot say thank you enough. Warms my heart. So unbelievably kind. I have friends and family members that listen to this. No one even called and said, hey, hey, is your arm, it sucks to hear about that. Is how like, nothing. They'll call me or text me if I'm wrong about something. So I really appreciate this kindness. And the rest of you, shame. No, I'm kidding. Onesie of the month. That's a new thing. So May 2021, it goes to you, my friend. Thank you so much. I'm going to post a little thing on the socials there, the little first certificate. But I really appreciate it. I really can't tell you enough. So, there you go, guys. 5 minutes of me not complaining about something. I got no reason to. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe that's what I should do is I should just bitch and complain about stuff. Maybe like, here's the solution. Shut up. I don't even care if that's the motive. That works for me. But thank you. So, I also learned this week, so I'm going to be doing some, interviews. I'm going to be actually guest, on a podcast myself, and, I will be having guests on the One Man Podcast. I read that book Belief that I was telling you guys about from Dark Helix. Oh God, please tell me I got that right. Dark Helix Press. Is it Dark Helix? Oh, I'm going to be so sad if I fuck that up. Where is it? Yes, it is Dark Helix. Okay, I got it right. Sorry, I would just feel incredibly ignorant. But yeah, the editor of Dark Helix and an editor of the book Belief. Now, of course, I believe there were multiple editors on that. But I was like, yeah, let's chat. Like, I mean, this person, and it's so funny, in email correspondence this week, it turns out that we have mutual people that we know here in Ottawa. I'm sure we'll talk about the podcast, but like married to someone I went to school with since I was a little kid. You know what I mean? Or sorry, I apologize. The brother of someone I went to school with. So like, I mean, I'm like, yes, I know them. Yes. Oh my God. We have so much in common already. And they were so cool to chat to. Like, I know that this conversation was going to be great. I was a little apprehensive because I'm like, okay, it's cultural and I'm an idiot and I don't even need help putting my foot in my mouth, but I'm like, this sounds like it's going to be fun. All right, let's do it. So I reviewed the book and then she listened to the podcast and I was like, oh, fuck. You're not supposed to listen to my podcast. I review it. Nobody involved ever hears my reviews. And not because I'm going to trash it, just because who the fuck am I to review anything? A high school dropout who can barely, who can't even pack burgers without giving himself tennis elbow. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, why would you take my review to heart? She was like, your review is very honest. And I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know you heard that. If I had known anyone was going to listen to it, It's like, isn't that the point of the podcast? Yeah, but I meant people who worked on it. Like, I don't want to, I hate when I get criticized. You know, I can take it, but I always internalize the shit out of it. And I'm like, no, I don't know anything. I just told you my idiot review of a book that I read. But I don't know. I think it's great. I think you guys, this is going to be a very fun interview because I'm going to be able to ask questions of an editor, you know what I mean? And like kind of what goes into this. She's also a writer too. So I'm really looking forward to having her, but it made me kind of stop and go, okay, I'd better really be mindful of what I say on the podcast. Like, don't worry, I'm not going to clean it up anyway. I'm still going to be stupid, guys. Don't worry about that. But I just mean that I think it'll be interesting, to keep in mind that like, oh yeah, the stuff that you're reviewing, people worked on that, you know, and they were kind enough to send me the book. So again, I don't think I shit on it because I did enjoy it, but I was honest, right? I told you guys that I liked some of the stories and some of them ended abruptly. Some of them felt like a strong first act. You know, it was like, oh great, I'm right into it. Okay, I know the characters. And you turn the page and it's over. I'm like, oh fuck, okay. It's the cliffhanger. Do I gotta buy next month's book or whatever? Like, but we're gonna talk about that. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about her and Dark Helix Press and some of the other stuff that she's worked on. So, you know what? Content from somebody way smarter than me. Can't wait. It's going to be a blast. So we've been coordinating that. But like I said, also keep in mind that I'm like, I better just keep in mind that, you know, if I review someone's book or their work, you know, they might hear it. So, I want to do a good job. It's funny because I don't want to kiss anyone's ass, but I want to make sure that I'm not being careless with my words because I don't want to hurt anybody. And we all work hard on shit. Fuck. I work hard on this podcast from time to time. And then I hear people like, oh, you're just fucking bitching. I'm like, I was telling a story that I felt passionate about, and I'm glad it just came across as me bitching. So I also found out from Michaela that she listens to the podcast. Anyone who doesn't know my stepdaughter, is that what I call her? So she had mentioned that she had listened to a few episodes. I was like, oh no, she's 13. I'm like, when did you listen to the podcast? Lord knows what I talked about on those ones. So the overall point I'm making is I got to be mindful of who's listening to my shit here. And speaking of books, I will say that the next book that I'm working on and reading is a book called Hype by Gabrielle Bluestone. And it's about like internet scammers, right? Like, she was the executive producer of the Fire Festival documentary on Netflix. So she's written about that. She's written about, I think there was like this woman who was like scamming people out of money because she said that they had this blood test that could tell you this, that, and the other. I don't remember. I remember seeing it on TV somewhere. Like there was something talking about this crazy woman. I think it was like a TED talk or one of those things about like being confident and scamming and just having like sociopathic, whatever. It was interesting to see. And they were like, oh yeah, we got this, we got that. And people were just giving the money. Oh my God, they got the fastest. Full of shit. So the whole book is just called Hype, and it's like about internet scammers. Why do we follow them? You know what I mean? Like why do they do it and why do we follow them? This kind of stuff. So I'm going to be reading that book and I'll give it a review soon. I've been in talks with the publishing company, or I believe the promotional department of said publishing company, to just try to, publicists. I think that's what I'm talking about. Publicists, to get an interview with Gabrielle as well. We'll see what happens. But I'm going to read the book first, see what I think. Maybe I'll hate the book. I don't want to. I love the documentary. I've already watched it twice. I watched it the day it came out a few years ago, and then I watched it again the day I found out about this book that I was getting. So I was like, oh, I want to watch that again. So yeah. So that's the next book that's coming up. If like, I think I'm going to start telling you guys too. So just in the odd chance that, you know, you guys want to pick up a book and you're like, you know what, I'll read it too. I'll send in, you can compare my stupid review of it and your thoughts and whatnot. Yeah. And then what did I watch? I watched some stuff, guys. This is the last thing before we get to the top 5. I'm trying to bang this one out here, try to keep it under an hour because I've been going long lately. Especially since this top 5 is like kind of, it's going to be long. Fuck, I really hope it's not long. I watched some movies. I watched As Good as It Gets again. Probably one of the most, I don't want to say underrated because everyone loves it, but just when you're talking about like outstanding comedies, and it's like, it's kind of a romantic comedy, kind of not. You know, As Good as It Gets, Jack Nicholson, Greg Kinnear, Helen Hunt. Great fucking movie. So many classic lines, so many hilarious things. Yeah. I was dying laughing because I'd forgotten some of the great lines in that movie. Harold Ramis, the late Harold Ramis, is in there. Yeah, if you haven't seen As Good as It Gets, I believe I was watching it on Amazon Prime. But listen, you owe it to yourself if you've never seen that. Cuba Gooding Jr. also in that movie as well. You owe it to yourself. Truly, you will have a very hard time not enjoying that movie. There's some classic lines, some of them polarizing, but I just want to say it. But I remember this one time, there's one moment in the movie that just makes me laugh my ass off. And it's Greg Kinnear. He plays a gay man. And he just, he says to Jack Nicholson's character, he's like, "You amaze me. Melvin, I love you." And he goes, "I gotta tell you, buddy, I'd be the luckiest guy in the world if that did it for me." just a fucking, I don't know. I love that movie. Love that movie. There's some jokes in it that you couldn't get away with nowadays, but it's so much fucking fun. It's so much fucking fun. Watched a horror movie on a recommendation from a friend. A movie called Death of Me, which was basically, it's a couple is on vacation or something. They watch a video where the husband is killing the woman, but it's like, but how is that possible? I'm right here. I'm not dead. How did you kill me if I'm right here and fine? So it's kind of, and then it just sort of goes all over the place. I watched it. I still can't even tell you what the fuck happened in it. It wasn't scary. It wasn't like eerie or like there was like one moment that was kind of gory and I felt almost needlessly, but it was just nothing. And it had one of Chris Hemsworth's brothers in it. He looked like Chris Hemsworth fucked Russell Crowe. He just had this weird, goofy, stupid look to him. But I don't know. It was bad. It was called Death of Me. And the budget looked halfway decent, I guess. It's just what's going on. And they're going to the doctor to what's wrong with me. And then they go to a witch doctor and then there's a parade and then they're they're having hallucinations. I did not like it. Tasha, I know that you listen to this podcast. I hope you do anyways. That was her recommendation. Boo. Write a review. Tell me what you liked about it. Boo. I did not like that movie. I watched a couple other ones. Would You Rather. I watched a movie called Would You Rather. And it's basically kind of like, if you think like Dinner for Schmucks, right? With Paul Rudd and Steve Carell, it's like a bunch of people are invited to a dinner at some super rich guy's house or whatever. And the concept of Would You Rather, right? A lot of people call them dilemmas or things like that, but it's like that old game, right? Would you rather do this or that? Blah, right? Well, and Would You Rather is not anything new, by the way. I'm sure a lot of people, if you're into horror, you've already seen it, but the idea is that a bunch of people get invited to this thing. They're going to play a little game. The winner leaves with all your protagonist, right, is got a sick brother and can't afford his medical bills. So her incentive to, do this thing is, if you go and do this thing, you could get all, the winner of this game will get this. So it's, I see. Right. And then you get there and it's like, okay, we're having dinner and then here's where the money goes. We're going to give you this if you do that. And it's like, it basically starts off where, one person is vegetarian. No, I'll tell you what, why don't you eat that thing? I'll give you $10,000 to eat that steak. And it's like, boom, they start eating and he's like, ha ha ha, look how quickly, all those morals, all that fighting for the cause wiped away with $10,000. So a little bit like, he's a little bit of a cock, but, it was just fascinating to me. I liked the premise. I liked kind of how that cerebral shit. The only thing was that the Would You Rathers, rather than it being, I kind of felt like it was going to be a little bit like Truth or Dare style, where one person gets asked, would you rather do this and that? Okay, next. Hey, would you rather? It was like, it would be like a would you rather, and then it went around the whole table. So you're watching like over and over and over again, the same scenario, everyone picking it. And so because of the length of time it did that, I was a little disappointed by the variety of situations people were going to get put into. I think by the end of the movie, there was like 6 total. And, all the good horror movies and suspense movies, like it wasn't bad. It really wasn't bad. The only 2 people that were in the movie that were recognizable to me, 3 people recognizable to me. There was the guy who played Darnell and My Name is Earl, Crabman. There's the guy who played Ricky from Trailer Park Boys, Rob Wells. And then there was the guy who played Kevin McAllister's father. Who's Kevin McAllister? Some of you know. Kevin from Home Alone. So he played the father in Home Alone, which was the 80s, early 90s. So I haven't seen that guy in anything in a while. In fact, I had to sit there and go, who the fuck do I know that guy? He was the dad in something. So yeah, that was interesting. I didn't mind it. Like it was well done. My only disappointment was that there wasn't more variety. It was like a Saw movie if there was like 3 traps in it. You know what I mean? You're like, I get it, but that's not, a slasher movie where he kills 2 people the whole movie. You're like, there should have been more carnage, but decent. Again, like it wasn't bad. It wasn't. The guy who played the rich dude was, he was I don't know, he's not eccentric. I don't think pretentious either. Like when guys speak super regal and very articulately, oh no, it was you who decided to accept our challenge this evening, blah, 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 blah. Like it wasn't just that he was British. It was just over the top, excessive syllables, multisyllabic words. You know what I mean? So he just didn't talk like a regular person. He talked like fucking some Shakespearean actor. So, but it wasn't over the top. A lot of times in the case when they do that, it's over the top. This was very believable. I believe a thank you is in order for blah, blah, blah. It's just, yeah, whatever. It was good. Would you rather? All right. Take a peek at Would You Rather. Let me know. Am I wrong? Am I asking for too much? And then finally, I watched a movie, just finished it this morning, called The Platform. So, Platform, interesting premise. Someone was telling me about it, saying that it's like think of this like tower, right? It's like, I mean, who knows if the tower starts underground or not, but it's basically just level after level after level. And it's like prison. All right. So like you're on a floor, concrete room, concrete box. In the middle of the room is a square/rectangular shaped hole. And that hole proceeds down through every hole. So you can look up and see that hole. You can look down and see the holes. And there's just floor upon floor people. There's 2 people per floor, right? And you'll see there's times where people are like looking up at the hole and yelling at the guys next to them, above them, or yelling down to the people below. And the premise of the movie is that at the very top is a I guess it's like a floating platform of food. It's like basically a giant, just think of basically like a giant concrete dinner table, banquet table that just lowers down through these holes. And the whole idea is that the table's filled every day and there's food on it, right? It's filled with food every day. And then it starts at level 1, right? And then the people in level 1 get to eat, and then it lowers down to number 2, and those people get to eat. So by the time it gets down to like level 40, the table's been kind of ravaged, but it's, there's still some food there. And then, as the movie goes on, they're kind of like, how low does it go? And the idea is every single month, the premise, every single month of this sentence or experiment or whatever the fuck it is, these people every month they get swapped to a different floor. So you don't know what floor you're going to end up on. So some people have had really good experiences being near the top and awful experiences where they were like starving for a month because by the time I got down to their 132nd floor, there was like no food left. Right. And over the course of the movie, it's just like, how deep is this place? And they're like, I've been as deep as blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? So like they're talking to different people. A lot of stuff goes on. It is an incredible premise. And to the point where like at first I'm like, okay, so like how are they going to make a whole movie out of like a table that, just comes down and feeds people or whatever? You know what I mean? Like the way it explained it to me was almost like it was like a platform that would come down and people like run out and gather food. Like you're not allowed to keep food. Like there's I won't give it away, but there's punishments. There's ways that they have secured that you eat when the table's there. And when it's gone, that's it. The food is gone. You don't get to fucking scarf, grab a bunch of stuff. Very interesting premise. I kept thinking like, how are they going to make a whole movie out of this? And they definitely had angles. And I was like, oh shit, that is interesting. And that's interesting. And blah, blah, blah. It ultimately fizzled out to nothing in my opinion. But still a very interesting premise. And I would definitely recommend checking it out. Would love to know what you guys thought. I was kind of like, I'm interested. And then just kind of like, oh, what's that all about? And then it just sort of gets to one of those points where you're like, I don't quite get what's going on. But I got to say, it does keep you watching. The story, like I said, it kind of fizzles out, but you are in it until the end. And then once you look back and you're like, well, it didn't really answer this. And I guess this doesn't make sense because there was no that. So you're kind of just waiting for it to all come together, I would say. But wicked premise, very cool to watch. You get to thinking like, oh, I think I would do this or I would do that. What if you did like, it's cool. The Platform, on Netflix. Death of Me also on Netflix, so I'm tapping this hard. Would You Rather on Netflix, and As Good as You Get, As Good as It Gets, I believe was on Prime. All right. So 38 minutes in, perfect time to start the top five list this week, gang. I will mention contact at onemanpodcast.com. I would love to have you guys send in your top five. You can either use the same top five as me or send in one of your own, any random shit. Oh, fuck. I had an idea for, that was a good one too, but I can't remember. I was like, no one sent it in, but I'm like, I think this is one that I could do. It was the worst. It was something about music or, God, it's going to bother the shit out of me. I was like, this is a really good one. I could definitely do that. All right. Well, now I've forgotten it. So my top five this week, gang. Again, one last time. Sorry, real quick before we move on. Contact at onemanpodcast.com. Send me what you want to send. Suggest it, whatever it is, and we'll get it going. For this week, we got top five things I felt strong about that a conversation or situation ultimately changed. So coming in at number 5, we've got using the term partner. That was something, it's hard to think sometimes of something that you feel super strongly about, especially something that you feel super strongly about that you've changed your mind on. Now, I love the positive angle of this, because it forces you to sort of look inwards and realize that, like, hey, sometimes it pays to be open-minded and looking at things differently. So, I bring this one up. Okay. I like the idea of the whole, what are things I thought. So this was something I found interesting as I noticed, and some of these I have talked about before in the podcast, but for the sake of just, putting them all back together, that's what we're going to do. So, using the term partner, I noticed a lot of people were doing that. My partner. Now, of course, when I was younger, you hear, hey, my partner, you're like, oh, what are you, cops? Like, you're a cop, your partner, hey, my partner and I are going to go into this building. Like, that's kind of the only time I heard partner. And then, of course, I started to hear the term partner in the LGBTQ community. And my brain always was just like partner, despite the fact that I know what the word is, you know what I mean? And what it means, it was just used predominantly in like a gay or lesbian relationship. So I was like, okay, partner just automatically means, well, that's what I thought. I'm not saying I'm right, but I was just like, okay. So again, it's not like I feel strongly, but you shouldn't use her. Nothing like that. I'm just saying this is what I thought. And it was my understanding. So I guess this is not one necessarily that I feel strong about, but it was just a strong understanding. When someone's like, oh, my partner, it was like, okay, same sex. That's what I thought. And I remember one night, I was at Absolute Comedy, and I was talking to someone, and they just kept saying, my partner. It was a female. And she's like, yeah, my partner this, my partner that, never really gave anything. And then she's like, yeah, he's da da da. And I was like, oh, he's your boyfriend. Yeah. And then I was asking, cause like she had said partner several times. These were younger people. So it was, I believe, university students or maybe just slightly older. And I just remember asking them, I go, is there any, I said, I've just noticed that you've used the term partner. You never said boyfriend or anything like that. I go, is there any particular reason for that? Because I was fascinated. I'm like, I noticed a lot of young people using that terminology. I'm hearing it a lot more. And rather than just going with my, old understanding of what it was, just like, I just said, is there any benefit or any, progressive reason for doing that? And the person who was saying it actually said, I don't know. I've just kind of always used it. But another person at the table said, that they feel that they use it because it's not offering up information. Do you know what I mean? Like if you're talking to somebody and you're like, oh yeah, my boyfriend does that. You just say, hey, my partner likes that. My partner and I do this. My partner and I enjoy that. And so it's not about necessarily LGBTQ or whatever, but the idea is that by saying partner, cause that was the thing, right? Is like, if you told me, hey, my partner, I immediately assumed same-sex relationship, but it's not that. So, well, I mean, maybe it was, but all I'm saying is that when you say my partner, it's a great way of letting someone know that you're in a relationship without outing your sexual orientation. You know what I mean? So if you say, hey, my boyfriend, well, now I know you're straight. You might be, you might be bi or pan or whatever it is, but just for the most part, it does feel like you're offering up some information about your sexuality. So when you say partner, you're not hurting anybody. You're not saying you can't say boyfriend or whatever, but just know that like, when they explain, I'm like, well, it's kind of like, it's not necessarily a privacy thing, but it's just saying like, I don't need to offer you up that information. I can say my partner, and gender/sex are not involved in it. So I just thought that was really cool. And I'm like, I can get behind that 100%. And so that conversation, just in its innocence or whatever, just the curiosity being like, oh, I wonder why, do you mind if I ask why you're using that terminology? Because like I said, I understood to be same sex. And when she said boyfriend, I go, well, it's clearly not. I found that fascinating. That's something that's important to me. This one here, number 4, numero 4 for my French listeners. Sorry guys, all the click clack, everything I pick up is grabbing a cord or tapping something. The use of, I'm just going to say the words, saying the word faggot or retard. I've talked about this before on the podcast, and also I'll try to keep it brief. I used to feel like I didn't use those words in a hurtful way. Like I never used it to describe homosexuals. I never used it towards people with special needs. That's not the kind of person that I am. I would never want to hurt somebody with it, but there was a time where I did throw those words around very liberally, and I'm still capable of accidentally using the quote unquote R word. I catch myself too. I'll be like, what are you, ridiculous? Like, you know what I mean? Like I don't like saying it. And here's now, again, I go back to my original way of being was like, I'm not like, first off, I grew up saying those words. Again, not in a description of, the hateful words that they were said. I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying these were words that were in my vocabulary as a male raised in the 80s, 90s. Like, yeah, I had shit words in my vocabulary. But the thing was, like, if I ever said them, it was kind of like, I'm not using it against these people or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not using it against the people, whatever. It's just like a throwaway thing. And that was my position on it, was like, I don't want to be told what my intent is. Like, I know my intent is not that. I don't want to be told my intent is. That was my previous position on it. And then I was just kind of like, you know what though? These are words that whether like R-A-R-E, these are words that could hurt someone. You know what I mean? Even if my intention isn't to hurt, if I say that to a friend or whatever, and somebody else overhears it and perhaps they are gay, or perhaps they do suffer from some sort of, mental illness or on the spectrum, some kind, I would hate to say it and have someone be hurt by it, accidentally, regardless. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? You fucking throw a rock and hit somebody you didn't mean to hit. I don't mean like, hey, I was trying to hit that guy, but I mean, just, you drop something, you spin around too quick, you bop somebody, whatever it is, when you hurt somebody, if you didn't mean to, it still hurt them. And so I guess I don't know if it's through conversations or just self-reflection, just asking myself really like, how important is it to me to have these words in my vernacular? You know what I mean? Like, do I really need to be walking around and saying this? Like, again, albeit, just on occasion or whatever, it doesn't justify it. And I'm not standing up for it. I'm just saying that these are words that I've said. And, regardless of whether I use them for what their original intent, whatever, I don't like it. I'm like, yeah, it's not worth it to me to keep these words at the cost of maybe hurting somebody. So that's something that I changed my position on. And what I like about these words is these are words that we recognize are venomous and can be hurtful. And well, not can be, pretty much are hurtful. What I like about them is that we kind of universally agree that, we shouldn't say them. You know what I mean? There are people who, have the old position. He's like, well, hey, I don't mean like blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, that's great. And maybe the people that know you know that you don't mean that. Just like the people who knew me knew that I didn't mean that. But at the same time, you might hit somebody else with it who doesn't know it. You could hurt somebody. You could ruin their fucking day. You know what I mean? Sometimes hearing those words are, think about the people who suffer from special needs, who may have been picked on or ridiculed or whatever it is. Kids are not kind. Kids can be cruel. And despite the fact that we have fucking soccer moms and bloggers talking about cyberbullying like they've destroyed it, it's not. It's like hackers and security developers, you know what I mean? Like bullies, maybe got pushed back where now they can't just do it openly in front of the teachers. Like when I was a kid, I had people tease me right in front of the fucking, the playground monitors. They didn't give a fuck. You know what I mean? The authority never helped me. So like, yeah, maybe now that they have to put their foot down, bullies are picking on the kids outside of the schoolyard, and then they push back to online and they're cyberbullying them. They're just like the mean people will find a way to still be mean. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying, like, you say that word and someone's like, oh, I don't mean, you know, I didn't mean you, or whatever. They hear that, it just puts them back in a place where it was really shitty. Like, why would you want something clanging around in your mouth that could hurt somebody? Something I do take issue with, and I'm going to get back to like the positive of it, is something I do take issue with is that idiot, moron, imbecile were all other textbook definitions for people with special needs. So I do find it kind of shitty that it's okay to say idiot and imbecile and moron. What are you, a fucking moron? Like, that's okay. You know what I mean? You can say that something is lame. Well, lame means, you know, legs don't work or whatever it is, the proper definition. But lame is a physical condition. But we've just adopted that. We don't use it the way that we mean, but we're still using that. Nobody will jump down your throat for that. So there is that fucking human being hypocrisy and ass backwardsness of all of it, that we still have other clinical definitions of disabilities or whatever that we're totally using, totally fine. But these words are so heinous, we can't even say what the word is. I think that's a little bit backwards. And I'm not advocating, I really want to make this clear, I'm not advocating that we should be able to do it because we can use all these other ones. I'm saying that we kind of need a general overhaul. You know what I mean? We need new words that mean crappy. You know what I mean? Oh, that's really crappy. That's boring. Right? Then you have people with ADD going, well, don't make fun of my, like, I can't help but be bored. How dare you use boredom as a choice? Anyways, all I'm saying is that I think that those two words that I referenced, it's nice that just generally we regard them as unacceptable. There are other words that we deem unacceptable, right? Like the N-word. That is not one that I will say on here, but that the issue I take with that one is that you make it okay for some and not okay for others. The drawing lines and it basically keeps it around. You know what I mean? Like for myself, I've decided to shelf those words, you know, shelf. I threw them in the incinerator before you attack me. What are you keeping them for? I'm getting rid of them. I'm trying to get them out of, like I said, I catch myself when I use the R word. I don't usually use the other one. Again, it's just kind of hateful. You use it even if you're not using, well, Jesus Christ. I think you use them both as an insult. You know what I mean? Like I've never, oh, you're such an F word. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's, I don't know anything that hurts people. So like I said, my perspective is, as much as I don't mean it that way, it's tough to keep in my vocabulary. It's hard for me to justify to myself ethically that these are words that it's okay to use because I don't mean it that way. You know what? Throw the N-word around and make that argument and see if it's accepted. But like I said, my issue with the N-word is that you keep it around. You're keeping it alive. It would be nice to just either destroy it, or what I loved about the 90s hip hop culture is that they took the word and they made it a term of endearment. You know what I mean? And I'm like, that's great. Take something horrible and turn it into good. You know what I mean? That is people taking plastic bottles and making plant pots out of them. And you know what I mean? Like if you take something that's shitty, now that's not on the same place. I can't wait for 10 years from now if I have some sort of success. And this conversation right now is like, he said that saying the N-word in a positive is the same as taking plastic. I'm just saying there's things in this world where you take a negative and you make it a positive. And I'm like, that's great. But you kind of need everybody on board for something to morph into it, right? And I'm not suggesting everyone just goes around and starts calling only one group of people, but I'm saying if everybody calls everybody that in a positive, like, hey, buddy, it becomes the new term for buddy, which it seemingly does in that community, right? It's a positive. Yeah, I don't know. That's how you change things. But as long as you still have lines where it's like, these people say it and it's bad, these people say it and it's good, automatically. Like that's the thing too, to be able to dictate intention based purely on your skin. Like doesn't even matter. You have this skin, so you say it and it's bad. You know, if you're calling someone it, you know, and one person has one skin color and one person has the other, that's pretty fucking obvious what's going on there. But anyways, like I said, I think that taking the other, I think that taking shit words out of your vocabulary is ultimately good. You know what I mean? If you're going, yeah, but I don't mean it that way. It's like, fine. We're not attacking you. I understand you didn't mean it that way. I'm not going to shit on you for a perspective that, I had before. But it's just that, but just if you take a second, right? The conversation, the reflection, if you just go, do I really need it? Is risking hurting someone else? You know, I got other words I can use. You know, I can tease, I can ball break with the best of them. I can afford to take 2 words, you know, hang them up, put them like jerseys from the rafters and just raise them up and go, okay, we're not using it anymore. All right. It had a lot of big years, but let's raise it up to the rafters, the racism rafters or whatever it is, prejudice rafters. Okay. Chivalrous versus controlling or abusive. So this was something, again, not that I felt strongly about, but it's something that I had an understanding of. And this story is going to fucking piss me off because I never got to finish the conversation I was particularly interested in. But I was having a conversation with a woman after a show, and she was talking about, you know, how she worked in a center for women who were in abusive relationships and controlling relationships and things like that. And she was just talking about different things. And I said, do you mind if I ask? Because I've got behaviors I'm not fond of, you know what I mean? But I'm just wondering, is there any way of knowing like if I'm abusive or whatever? Like, I hope I'm not, but I know I'm not, I would know I was never physically abusive, but I'm like, there was times like this is also a long ago conversation. I remember just being like, oh, I wonder if I have any, you know, maybe verbally abusive or emotionally abusive tendencies, you know? So I asked because I just, you know, I don't know. Part of growing is like holding yourself up to like, hey, do I have narcissistic tendencies? Do I have insecurities? Do I have codependency? Do I have, you know, attachment issues? Do I have abusive issues? Like, what the fuck is wrong with me? You know? What is the shit that I should work on so I can ultimately be a better partner for someone someday? Ah, so cute. Anyways, I remember asking this woman, I said like, I remember like, oh, I remember saying like, I like to think of myself as like old fashioned or chivalrous. You know what I mean? Like pick the lady up, pay for dinner, da, 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 da. And she's like, there is nice chivalry out there, but chivalry can very quickly become controlling or abusive. Like depends on the person. Not every person is chivalrous, but sometimes, controlling or abusive behavior, starts off looking like chivalry. And I was like, interesting. Well, tell me like what about it? She's like, well, for example, you might be like, hey, let me take you out for dinner Friday night, you know? And then the next time it's like, hey, let me take you out for dinner Friday night. I'm going to pick you up at 7, you know? And then like, hey, we're going to pick you up at 7, you know, Friday night and wear that red dress that I like, you know? And then I'm going to pick you up. We're going to go to this restaurant and you're going to order this meal. And it's like, she was basically illustrating how like, and there might be some people like rolling their eyes like, oh, it's no big deal. But they were describing, because I had a conversation with a friend this week about how could someone get into an abusive relationship? And if you're in an abusive relationship and you don't leave, that's on you. And I'm like, I have a better understanding of how people can stay in abusive relationships, especially when they've been brainwashed and conditioned. This stuff usually takes time to develop. So I remember just thinking like, well, I'm the kind of guy who would say like that, but I wouldn't say like, hey, wear this dress and buy this meal. It's like, it's just, you know, hey, I would love to, hey, you know, pick you up and, you know, this and that kind of thing. Like I'd love to take you to the restaurant and I got a nice place picked out. But I could see how that progression over time where it's like, you're always calling the shots. You're always telling the person what to do before they know it. They maybe feel like I can't make any choices. I'm always doing what they say. And then of course there's the time where you kind of decide, oh, I don't want to do that. And they're like, what? And I don't know. It was fascinating to me. And the conversation developed. Unfortunately, I can't remember specifically how, but we were talking about how like these relationships and these people can actually, like the reason they end up in these shelters is because after so long of kind of being told how it's going to be and what to do when you get, you know, or it seems chivalrous at first, then you move in together and all of a sudden the behavior becomes even more controlling. Who are you talking to? I don't want you to like, it was fascinating to sort of hear how that shit can develop. Unfortunately, I didn't get to finish the conversation because one of the servers who worked at Absolute at the time thought it would be funny to come in at like a very vulnerable part of a story of someone who had undergone a lot and just made some joke like, yeah, if she doesn't listen, you smack her around. Haha. Now this person did not react well. They basically like, he stuck his face right over her shoulders. Like, yeah, if she doesn't listen, just smack the bitch. And she very quickly responded with slapping him in the face. Not okay. I get that. But the server was right away like, you're out, get out, like done. And that was it. Kicked her out of the club and that was it. So I was like, I didn't want to chase this person. I'm like, wait, I want to know more about abuse and everything. Let me follow you. Like, it was frustrating. You know, obviously she shouldn't have slapped him in the face, but at the same time, like, when someone has basically been saying for like the last 20 minutes that they're, a grief counselor for people who've undergone like these traumas and stuff like that. His joke, like, I don't know. I feel like he could have been like, okay, maybe I had that coming. Can't happen. I don't know. I'm just disappointed that I didn't get to understand more. That was an opportunity for me to sort of learn more. I mean, obviously I can read books and shit on it, but it was interesting to be able to actually ask someone questions versus just, I'm going to read what the book tells me or, what the video or the website or whatever. I found that interesting, and it did sort of change my mind, because I remember thinking, like my friend who I spoke to this week, it's like, oh, if you get in an abusive relationship, like you can leave. That's on you if you stay. And I understood from that conversation that I had, from just what they were talking about, the progression and different questions I was asking, is how, yeah, like when you get isolated from the people that care about you and more like controlled and stuff like that, you can have this sense of like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to leave. You know what I mean? They've convinced me that like this is the best that I can do, and that they're really a good person. All sorts of fucked up, brainwashing and mind control and stuff like that can happen and influence your behavior. So for me, the change was just like, oh, and yeah, like I could totally see how, again, the chivalry part where I'm just being nice. I'm picking you up. I'm taking you to the nice restaurant, all this. And it's just like, yeah, but where does my say come in? Where do I get to be part of this? I don't know. It was fascinating and definitely changed my mind. Number 2, a big one. It was number 1 on my list for a while, and then I had to put number 1. I had to put number 1 where it belonged. So this is number 2, guys. A big thing, and this was one I felt strongly about, and in classic, and I gotta say former, because I'm not even this adamant about anything anymore. But I did not want to be a parent. I did not want to be a parent. And this one specifically is why I had to ask if it's, instead of just calling it a conversation that changed my mind, I had to ask for it to be a situation, because I knew this was the first one that came to mind, when my friend submitted this list. I did not want to be a parent. I thought that, hey, like you find someone, you want to spend time with them, and a kid is, not that it's bad, but it's just a responsibility that makes a lot of things in life ultimately more difficult. And I remember having conversations with my friends, my best friends, who are still my friends now, who are all parents now. All of the people that I'm thinking of right now are parents now. And I just remember conversations with them. I remember one specifically where, Red, good friend of mine, has co-hosted this podcast with me one time. We were early 20s, I believe. And we were all at, having beers, and Red had said, and Red, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but it was a perspective at the time. Obviously more people are going to, everyone at the time sided with you, not me. But I get to talk about my thoughts at the time, who I was. Red was like, oh yeah, I need to have a kid by the time I'm 30. And I was like, need? I think I gravitated towards the end. I'm like, what do you mean you need to have a kid? And it's like, yeah, I know I need it. Like, I know that that's something like I need in my life. And I was being way too, focused on the textbook definition of it. But I was like, so you don't need to have a kid. You need food, water, shelter. You don't need to have a kid. You want to have a kid. But anyways, this was just like a classic argument with me where I was like, I was trying, and I had people, I'm going to call Mika out on this too. My buddy Mika's like, no, you gotta have a kid, someone to teach things to and to play ball with and to just have that. I'm like, yes, it's strong wants. There's no problem with wanting it, but everyone's like, you need to. The human race, this is how. I'm like, the human race isn't going anywhere. We're not in danger. You having a kid, you don't need. Like, anyways, it was. I still understand what my point was, and I felt a little bummed out that no one understood what I was saying. I was fascinated by people's understanding for the need. I wasn't like, why would you want to have a kid? So that was kind of me sometimes, is that people thought, they hear something different. My fascination was, why does this feel like such a need? It's a strong want. I get it. There's nothing wrong with it. It sounds great. Just, it's not a need. But, I got involved with a woman who I loved very much, and she had 2 kids. This was the love of my life at the time. And I was like, it's funny because I was like, you know what? I recognize that she's got kids and I care about her. And this is a package deal. That's what we talked about. When Crystal and I first got together, she was like, me and the kids were a package deal. And I was like, so is me in comedy. Like, I hope you respect that. And that's something that I want to do. And it was just funny, not even funny. It was just, what an incredible experience. We moved in together very quick, and I was a part of these kids' lives every single day. I got to see, I believe they were 2 and 4 when we got together, and it was just I got to see what it was like to be a parent. I got to be cool and like admired, not because I was a stand-up comedian or anything like that. I was admired because I was just Josh. You know what I mean? And I could tell you guys stories up and down about like how cool the parenting experience was. And despite the fact that Crystal and I were on and off, like I love this because I will tell you this right now. I remember my barber telling me early on when we got together, and this was like when I was just learning how to be around them and not being like an idiot. You know what I mean? And I made parenting mistakes. Fuck, did I ever make parenting mistakes? I took all the garbage from all the mistakes from my parenting into this relationship, and I fucked up, and it sucks. Like, it's just, you're human. You know what I mean? No instruction manual. But I just remember my barber saying to me very early on in the relationship, I was thinking like it feels gross to say now because of how much I love these kids, but it felt like at times, like I'm going to learn to like them. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to get along. It's going to be like, kind of like, okay, like, you know, this is the package deal, but I don't know much about, you know, whatever. I don't hate kids, but I don't love kids. I fucking love kids now. You know what I mean? It's just cool to see how they think and the level of creativity, the human mind without lumps of shame and guilt and all that shit that we these horrible stigmas that we pay forward to our children. Don't do that. Don't dance like that. People are going to think you're crazy. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do this. Don't do that. Don't say that. Don't wear that. No, don't do this. Shh, don't say that. People are going to, all that horrible shit. You're not doing your kids a favor by making them feel self-conscious. You know, you got a kid who wants to put on a tutu and go to school. Let him. If he's happy, build up his self-confidence, right? You know, you're literally being the first bully by telling him, you know, you can't wear that. People are going to think you're weird or whatever. Yeah. Like, okay. I mean, we got told that kind of shit when we were kids. Or some people had supportive parents and they don't waste their time listening to a fucking comedian bitching about life. Anyways, I had so many great experiences that I got to a point pretty quickly. You know what I mean? You know, we were together for like 10 years and it wasn't even a question where I was like, you know, if I get into another relationship, like definitely having kids is on the table. I would love to be a dad, and I think I would make an okay dad. For me, it wouldn't be so much about like making sure my kids have the same beliefs as me. It's more just like being there for them, helping them build up their confidence. And then when they have questions, making it so that they want to come to me and use me as a sounding board. And I'll do everything I can to get the right answers. I love seeing Brody and Michaela and the you know, 16 and 13 year olds that they are now so much. They're pretty fucking awesome people. I mean, Crystal is she is an amazing mother. One of the best moms I've ever seen. Like they're great kids. They're really great kids. And I'm so grateful that I got to be a part of their life and got to have those experiences. It's funny now because my friends' kids are now the ages that Brody and Michaela are. So it'll be a point where I can actually start to relate to what they've got going on and whatnot, because I wasn't there for the diaper changing, you know, learning words. Like they could talk a little bit, you know, obviously Brody infinitely more being 4, but it was just, you know, I can communicate with them. I can see their little head spinning with wonder and all these things. What a great thing. Listen, I will be the same guy. I've told lots of guys this are like, nah, I'm not interested in having kids. I go, it's awesome. And I go, listen, you're just saying you're not really interested in having kids. You don't want kids. I'm like, you should have heard how fucking vocal. I should have shut the fuck up 100 times about how, like, I just don't want to I'm not interested in it. It's a lot of work. It's, as other people have said, it lives up to the hype. So I just tell guys all the time, I go, listen, I'm not telling you should have kids. I'm not telling you should want to. I go, I had the experience, you know, and it changed my mind. It changed my perspective on it. Loved it. And like any other parent can tell you, like, there's times where you're just like, oh, you drive me fucking crazy. But the good times and everything are so worth it. So worth it. The being able to be there for somebody. Yeah. Just to the responsibility of just being like, I'm this person's caretaker and they trust me to help make sense of the world for them. It's great, guys. Yeah. Being a parent, hardest job in the world, psychologically, maybe sometimes physically. I'm not going to give you some Oprah speech where it's the hardest job in the whole world. You know, it's difficult at times. It's taxing. It keeps you going, but there's harder. Okay. And then here's the big one. This is the one that changed my life the most is being angry. I have talked about this in the podcast before, but again, for anyone who's new to it or whatever, just to know something that changed me big time. Something that I felt strongly about. Well, I was a very angry person. I complain now, but I try not to let my emotions get the better of me. This is something that if you've never stopped and looked inward, do it. This has been the most freeing thing I've ever learned. So was it something I felt really strongly about? No, but it had a strong hold over my life, just being angry, frustrated, pissed off. You know what I mean? And I just, I'm not mad about this. I'm just pissed off. The world's, fucking trying to fuck me over, and all these different just anger emotions. And I remember I was working at Domino's Pizza, within the last decade. I don't remember exactly. And I would say it was sometime probably 2014 was when this conversation was had, maybe 2015. But I remember I had gone on 3 deliveries to like the farthest point away from our store, which burning my own gas and everything like that, stuck in rush hour traffic, stop and go, get there. And then the person didn't pay me. You know what I mean? Something like, college students ordering $50 of the pizza, but I'm sorry, I'm a student. I can't afford to tip. It's like, really? But you can afford to drop $50 on one meal. You know what I mean? Like, that's the anger shit that I was feeling. Like, don't blow smoke up my ass. Just be like, yo, no tip for you because I'm a cocksucker. That's what it was. So I do about 3 of these in a row where I'm just getting fucked. We called it stiffed in the business, and not like, oh, I didn't get a tip. Like they gave me $1. It's like nothing. I got absolutely nothing. So like, I would have made more money if I just stood here against the wall instead of paying my own gas to go get nothing. So these came back and I was in a mood. I was like, what the fuck are these people's problems? Just angry. I was angry, not fun to be around. No question. You know what I mean? Like I vent angrily in a comedic way. Sometimes I can make people laugh with my anger, but at the same time, sometimes I'm just fucking angry and there's nothing funny about it. You want to talk complaining, legitimate complaints and negative and not nice to be around. Not gonna, sugarcoat it. And my colleague, Dee Dee was like, she's like, anger is a secondary emotion. Those were the words that she said. The first words I remember was it the first words out of her mouth? I don't know, but it's the first words I remember hearing out of her mouth. And I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, well, it's a secondary emotion in the sense that you don't just get angry. And I go, okay. She's like, anger is secondary to fear. So you feel fear and anger is a result of fear. And so I'm like, well, what do you like, you've got my attention. So she's like, well, for example, if you're driving in traffic, right? And somebody cuts you off and you're like, watch where you're fucking going. She's like, in that moment, you were probably afraid that you were going to get hurt. You were afraid that, your car was going to get damaged. Like there was a concern that led to that anger, that provoked that anger. And I immediately understood what she meant. Now, part of me, and this is the exact same response I had that everybody else has when I share the same piece of insight with them, right? Which is really just psychology. Is my thought was, well, there's got to be times where I get angry and I'm not always afraid. Do you know what I mean? But I started to try to pick situations where you would get angry and then going, okay, well, what could I be afraid of in that instance? And it was funny because you can explore it and go, oh, like, well, in this case, maybe it's this, or in this case, maybe it's that. And it's like, sometimes when I tell people this, they think that I'm saying that like, when you are angry, it means you're terrified. It's not exactly what it means. It means that you're concerned. Like you can have a small concern leads to a small frustration. You know what I mean? Like the anger isn't, it's a fight or flight response to fear. You know what I mean? Only the fears in our lives now is like, so I looked at it. The fears in our lives now, a lot of them are mental. Like, how am I going to pay my bills? That's a fear. I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to pay my bills. So the reason that you heard me sort of sidestep what I was saying is that like in that moment, I was like, well, why am I angry right now? What am I afraid of? And I'm like, well, I'm probably afraid that I'm wasting my time. I'm probably afraid that I'm not going to make enough money to pay the things I need to pay. I'm afraid I'm working a job I don't like and it's not even going to be worthwhile. You know what I mean? And then when you recognize those fears, you're like, well, if you're afraid you're wasting your time or you're afraid you're not going to make enough money, then that gives you something to work on. You know what I mean? Maybe I should find something else. Like it gives me something to reflect on and then to actually action a solution versus, these fucking cheap fuck. Like there's nothing to come from that. So I started thinking about it. I started, it's interesting how that works. And it really helps for me because it became a tool that I started to employ right away, which is, okay, if I feel angry, I'm afraid. So what am I afraid of? So rather, like, I would basically just start to ask myself, as soon as I start to feel like getting angry about something, I would just go, okay, I'm angry. It means I'm afraid. What am I afraid of? You know what I mean? And just think about the situation. You know what I mean? Like, fuck it, putting together an IKEA shelf. You start to get pissed off. Well, maybe you're afraid that, it's not going to get, you're not going to get together in time, or that you're not going to be able to put it together, or that something's missing, or like, there's always a concern associated. Again, tons of people, I'm not scared. Yes, you are. You just don't know it. And the funny thing too about asking yourself, like, okay, I'm angry, breath, what am I afraid of? Like, your anger's it's not that it's not legitimate. It's just that reacting in anger is very emotional, right? So like, you're not making things better when you're just angry. So if you stop and go, okay, I'm angry, what am I afraid of? And you start thinking, well, maybe, you're not always going to come up with the answer. I don't always come up with the answer, but I know that I believe that it's fear associated. And then by stopping to go, okay, well, am I afraid of this? Like, what am I afraid? A lot of times people just get angry in fights and relationships. You know what I mean? And you're like, why are you angry? Oh, I'm not afraid of anything. Well, but you might be. Well, not might. There's no might about it. You most certainly are. Psychologically speaking, you are afraid or concerned or worrisome about something. And I feel like a lot of times, like in relationships, when people get angry in arguments, it's like, I'm afraid that you're not listening. I'm afraid that you're not understanding my point. I'm afraid that you're not going to let me get my point across. I'm afraid this behavior is going to continue. I'm afraid you don't respect my feelings, or I'm afraid that you're not going to listen to them. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of things to be afraid of or concerned about. Choose whatever word makes sense to you, but they distill down to fear. So what is it that in that moment that you're afraid of that's making you act that way? Because if you can catch that, right? If you're arguing with your partner, like, okay, hold on, honey, I'm angry, so I'm afraid. Like, I've done that with my mother in the car. Like, I get frustrated with her knowing that she's clicking on links and giving her credit card number, and I'm like, Mom, what the fuck are you doing? Like, I've even said, look, Mom, I'm angry, so I know I'm afraid. Okay. And I'm probably afraid in this moment that you're going to hurt yourself, or you're going to give your information away and you're going to get fucked over. I'm afraid that, you're going to click on things that are going to put you in a bad position. Like I'm angry, but I'm not angry at you. I'm angry because I'm afraid, and I'm afraid something bad's going to happen to you, and I'm worried about you. You know what I mean? Like, that revelation for me was such a game changer in my life. It doesn't mean I don't get angry anymore. It just means that reacting and staying in that anger is easier, because like I said, I now I feel myself getting angry, and rather than just blah, 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 I stop and I go, okay, what are you afraid of? You know what I mean? Like, and I start thinking about it. Sometimes I come up with the answer and I'm like, cool, I've got something I can action or work towards. I know what the problem is. Sometimes I don't, but regardless of whether I figure out exactly what it is, I have pulled myself out of that mental state, like that emotional state of anger, and put myself in a logical one of trying to figure out what it is. And so I'm not reacting like a shithead and pushing people away. You know what I mean? You're not doing harm. And the thing is, it's funny too, right? Because you hear people talk about fear mongering, like when everyone's angry or whatever, you hear them talk about fear mongering. They don't talk about anger mongering. That fear is exactly what drives the anger. Right? Because anger is a secondary emotion to fear. It is not a standalone. Fear can stand alone. You can be afraid and not be angry, right? But the anger is a fight or flight response to fear. You get angry to be hostile. The only thing is that, like, we're cavemen, lizard brain kind of shit, where it's like, I'm afraid. Well, the only fears are you're not a caveman worried about how you're going to pay the cave rent next month, and now you're angry and flipping out. It's like your fear is run, big cat, eat Biff, or whatever the fuck. You know what I mean? So like, that's where that goes. That's all I'm saying, is that, it's our fears now are like, we have fight or flight. People have panic attacks when they're worried about, like, how are they going to pay their rent? What's going to happen after COVID? Am I going to have a job? Like that nervousness, that fight or flight that you're feeling, your brain doesn't know that this fear that you're thinking of is not something that's right in front of you. You're having the fight or flight response. I don't know if I've mentioned this in the podcast before, but that's why you feel sick when you get scared. You know what I mean? Like, why do I feel like I want to throw up or shit myself when I get nervous? It's because your brain is, your system, your psyche is sensing fear. And again, in nature, your instincts are, fear means run. You know what I mean? It's not like conceptual fears, right? It's I'm afraid, run. And the reason you feel sick to your stomach or you feel like you're going to shit is because in nature, if you got to flee from danger, if you throw up or shit, you're making yourself lighter and therefore easier to escape. So that's where that shit comes from. But anyways, like I said, for myself, not only, do I use it as a way to pull myself out of that state and kind of go, okay, what am I afraid of right now that's causing me to get upset? Not only does it change my dynamic with anger, but it has also changed how I see angry people. Because before, someone comes up to you and they're, angry, what the fuck? Da, da, da. And again, it gets your fear up. Well, I'm afraid this person's going to attack me or they're angry with me or whatever it is. And now your anger comes out. What the fuck is your fucking problem? And now you get two people who are, angry at each other. Whatever the fear was in the first dude, who knows? But it's just like, now I don't see somebody who's angry. I see someone who's afraid. Someone comes up to me and starts yelling. It's like, well, I don't need to get angry or afraid. I don't have any real reason to be afraid unless they're, threatening me with violence or whatever. But you think about I've worked in cell phone places where someone comes in and they're angry about their bill. You know what I mean? Well, they're probably afraid that they're going to get charged for something that they didn't use, or they're afraid that, they're getting fucked over. They're afraid that they can't, trust whatever its services, whatever the fuck it is, right? Or they're afraid that they're not going to get this fixed, right? But if you look at somebody who's angry and you go, they're afraid, and you try to empathize, okay, well, what could they be afraid of in this situation? You're not going to walk up to someone who's fucking furious and be like, hey man, what are you afraid of? You might get punched in the face. Hey, you guys hear that? That is I have 1 hour left to eat. I have done, sorry, of course there's shitloads of messages on my phone. I've set up alarms and everything like that to make sure that, I get a 1 hour warning, right? There's no point in setting an alarm that says can't eat anymore if I lost track of time, right? So you need one hour, and then I got another alarm that's like, put down, pencils down, forks down, fatty. Put down the fork. You are out of time for today, monsieur. Anyways, so getting back to that, yeah, like I said, you don't want to approach somebody who's fucking furious and be like, hey, what are you afraid of? That would be a terrible thing. But, in just taking a second, that's the thing too. I've actually, been past nightclubs and stuff, driving past, waiting at a red light. Some young guy's outside screaming at his girlfriend. What the fuck were you talking to that guy for? Don't fucking blah, blah. It's like, you're like, oh, buddy, you're just doing more harm than good. And you know exactly what's his fear. Well, obviously he's afraid of his girlfriend's going to go talk to that guy, to leave him, whatever. Like sometimes it's like just taking that second to go, I wonder what he's afraid of. It's fucking obvious. You see two people fucking screaming at each other and you're like, I bet you care about each other, but both of you are so afraid of something right now, but you're letting your anger just push each other apart. Oh, it's sad, guys. But the biggest change in my life, the number one thing that a situation or a conversation, that conversation with Dee Dee about anger being a secondary emotion has changed my life. I'm infinitely a better person understanding the root of my anger. Did it eliminate anger? No, anger is a real emotion. But what I do with that anger has changed night and day. It has made me a better person, a better man. It has affected every single relationship that I have in a positive. Do I still complain on my podcast? Sure. Am I angry? A little bit. But it's better to get it out in the form of me bitching about something than to be screaming and yelling with my partner or being in a shitty mood. You know what I mean? Like you look at these guys who are single, right? I got friends who are overweight. There was a time in my life where I thought that I was single because I was overweight. And it's like, no, I'm single probably because I have a shitty attitude at times. You know what I mean? You got these guys who are like, there's guys who are skinny and in shape. You know what I mean? But their attitude sucks. There's lots of guys I know who are like overweight and they're like, oh, if I lose the weight, then I'm going to get the bitches. And I'm like, well, if that's your perspective, you're going to be pissed off when you get there. Right? Like the attitude makes a big difference. You know what I mean? And if you're in a shitty mood, oh, can you believe these fucking chicks are so fucking, these sluts. Well, I've got guys who talk like this. It's like, oh, these fucking sluts aren't interested. Yeah. They just want to fuck. It's like, well, listen to you. You're a crabby fucking cocksucker. You're a crab. You're in a grouchy, you have a shitty attitude. Who would want to be around that all the time? I have been guilty of being not to that same extent. I'm not walking around calling women sluts or whatever, but there's times where I just felt like, oh, I'm the only reason I'm single is because I'm physically unattractive. And I can say that there was a lot of things about my personality that were unattractive as well. And anger was one of them. So if you're listening to this and you have issues with anger, know that, like, even it's not that other people are even looking at you going, wow, he's really afraid, but they just being around someone who's angry isn't an easy thing to do. And it's not something that anyone would want. So yeah, game changer for me. That's it, guys. That's my top 5. I can't remember for the life of me what other top 5 I had. There was, I can't remember. Fuck. I was happy about it and it felt fun. It was something to do. I don't know. I really don't remember if it was food or what. I don't. I'll try to come up with it. But yeah, I like the idea of being able to pick the next week's top 5 so that you guys can join in. Just if you decide that you want to throw yours in. This was a big one. This was a positive one. Things that I felt strong about that a conversation or situation ultimately changed. Send them to me, guys. It's not like I went to school and someone talked me out of one course or another. You know, I've been encouraged to be a comedian my entire life. So it's not like one conversation, you know, it's like I did feel avidly against that. Maybe, you know what, maybe that's something, but you know, now I'm not really even chasing comedy that hard because everything's closed. But, you know, I spent a lot of my life strongly feeling like I didn't have what it takes to be a comic. I was wrong about that. I guess it was, you know, I've talked about that in the past. Like, I guess there's more things had I spent more time really diving deep, but, this is a positive one, guys. So maybe you had something in your life that you changed, a direction, an opinion, or whatever it is. I'd really love to hear from you guys on this one. My expectations are incredibly low, but, it would be nice. Yeah, I've got good people. You guys got really good people out there. And just based, I hope, on my list, you know, maybe somebody is out there who's had some shit that really changed their perspective, and you might change mine, or if you write it in, you might change someone else's too. You know what I mean? So, I'm hoping that some of the shit that I talked about maybe gave you guys a little bit of a different appreciation. That would mean a lot to me, but you know, maybe it didn't. Maybe it's just a little bit more of the story that is me. But, having said that, contact at onemanpodcast.com. No matter what you send in, I will read it. If you want to tell me I'm an idiot, if I said something offensive, whatever it is, I'm never going to give you guys shit for something I learned yesterday. I've talked with people about that. It's like, as much as I'm learning stuff, like I can't turn around like, oh my God, how do you not know this? It's like, we're all just learning at our own pace. I'm 38 years old, still learning really important lessons. I was in my 30s before I learned any of these things. So, if you're still struggling with shit, just remember to forgive yourself. The answers could come. There's a saying I love that's when the student is ready, the master appears. And what that means to me is that a lot of us are not in a position in our lives where we're willing, you know, where we're not ready to learn. I've talked to some young pups about the anger, and they just, no, I get angry and I'm not scared. And they're just not ready to hear it. You know what I mean? And that's what that saying to me means, is sometimes you get to a point in your life where you're like, I'm open to this. I'm open to maybe making a change or whatever. And then it's like, you know, the quote unquote, the master appears. Not that it's one person. It's just that the universe, it's there. This information was always there. You just weren't ready to hear it. So as soon as you're open to the idea that maybe I can take a different perspective on this, or maybe I can think differently, it's like, bam, it's all right there. It was always there. But you know, hey, when the student is ready, the master appears. I feel that wholeheartedly. And even some of these big growth things, there's new things in my life all the time that I still, you know, hey, I feel strongly about this, but I might be just one conversation away from feeling differently about it. So, I hope you guys have the best fucking week ever. Send me whatever you want or don't. One more shout out to Onesie of the Month, Brent in Calgary, Racket Network, for sending me what I need to expedite my, the healing of my tennis elbow. Really can't thank you enough. What a great human being. That's it for this week, guys. I appreciate you being here with me, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.